So I just finished reading Half His Age by Jennette McCurdy, and I feel like we have to discuss it. Half His Age is a novel, Jennette McCurdy's first novel, about a 17-year-old girl named Waldo who starts an affair with her high school English teacher. Yep. And basically it's taking you throughout her journey of this very, very problematic, very, very disgusting, very, very illegal relationship, and what it makes her learn about herself and about her own life. I think that this book was very, very well written. I think that it was extremely well written. And I do believe that this type of story is very, very difficult to choose the correct tone for and to make the correct wording choices, because this is like gross. You know, like the concept, it's disgusting. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to be unnerving. And I think that Jennette does a very, very good job at making you uncomfortable at literally every moment possible. But there's very, very specific moments where it's like you feel like so incredibly grossed out and just you're filled with dread and disgust and just this long feeling of discomfort that kind of carries through the whole entire book. There are like set moments, like set sexual moments, even the beginning of the book where like Waldo's having sex with a guy her age, like just the way that whole scene is described, like that whole chapter, I was already like uncomfortable and disgusted even from the beginning. And I think of this one specific moment later on in the novel where Waldo is on her period and her teacher's like, oh, let's have period sex. Okay, at his house. And then his wife comes home. So then Waldo is in the closet, like literally trying to stop the blood from coming out of her vagina because she's naked in his closet. She's like cupping her own vagina as blood is falling out of it. And I think that like just the concept of that and like the visual of that, it's just sad. It's genuinely so sad and depressing and bleak and like I got chills so many times reading this book because it's like, wow, like, oh, okay, like it's no, like it's bad. I really, really love how this story is told from the perspective of the victim, because I think that the problem with a lot of media that depicts grooming is that it is told from the groomer's perspective, and it's kind of showing you all the things that are going wrong in their life that's like leading them to preying on a child. And I actually don't give a fuck about any of that. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care that you're in a loveless marriage. I'm sorry, I don't care that you're a fucking single 30-year-old woman. Like, I don't care about any of that. I'm sorry, I do not care about any of that, because I care about the child that you are preying upon. You know, so I think that it's really, really important that this was told from the perspective of the victim. And I think that it was really interesting that Waldo thinks that she's grown up, you know, because she has been forced to grow up in certain ways in her life because her mom is pretty negligent. So like she's paid her own bills and she's like paying for her own car. She's going to work. She's doing all this stuff. And she had to emotionally take care of herself for a very, very long time since she was a child, because her mom is just so absent in all of the productive ways that she should be there as a parent. And so you have this character who thinks that she's all grown up, you know, like she's had her human experience expedited in certain ways, so she thinks that gives her a certain form of knowledge, but you really realize that being grown up and being an adult are two completely different things. Like, that's what this story is really mapping out for you, that you can be grown up and not be an adult. And it's also showing that adults, like, despite the knowledge that you think that an adult will have in your life, they don't know what the fuck they're doing either. You know, like Waldo's mom prioritizes men in her life, centers men in her life, and she does not grow out of that pattern. Waldo eventually grows out of that pattern of centering other people in her life and learns to center herself and to be like literally at the forefront of her own life and prioritize what she wants and what she needs. Meanwhile, her mom is still stuck in this endless cycle, and then her teacher, obviously he has no fucking clue in the world, because what the fuck is your problem? You know, like, he's married, he's done all like the right things. Okay, you have the wife, you have the kid, you have this and that, but he still is unfulfilled enough in his life to like go start a relationship with a teenage girl. And then he leaves his wife, and then he literally is just doing nothing, a whole bunch of fucking nothing. So you can look up to these people and like you see these adults and you're like, okay, like when I get their age I'll have the answers. No, the fuck you won't. And you really see this come into play with the way that Waldo idealizes her teacher at the beginning. She's like, oh my god, he's so smart, oh my god, he's so this and that, like he's like a true creative mind, like he's like blah blah blah. And then she becomes disillusioned with him as the story goes along, and she sees that he's literally just a fucking guy. Like, this is literally just some dude. he's not special, he's not enlightened, he's not anything. And there's a quote specifically from the story that I think that really encapsulates this whole entire phenomenon that like the book is really about. The peace and freedom that can only come from lowering your expectations of someone. Not to say that the entire book is about like just stop expecting things from people. That's not the overall message, but I think that it really is saying something, that the only way that Waldo can find the space in her life to push herself to the forefront is when she stops expecting other people to fill a certain role in her life. You know, she sees that some people are not exactly what you expect them to be, and that some people's behavior and their treatment of you is not situational. It's just the way that they are, and it's the way that they're going to treat you. Like, she thinks, okay, my teacher is going to treat me better once he leaves his wife. Or she's like, okay, after I tell him that I love him, he's going to treat me better. After I ignore this specific problem, he's going to treat me better. After I go and give him this sexual favor, he's going to treat me better. But the treatment that he's giving to her is not situational. It is just fundamentally how he thinks of her and how he is going to treat her forever. You know, it's not like, okay, well, if I change this, then he's going to react this way. Or like, if I do this, then it's going to be that way. And the same thing with her mom. Her mom is like going through this cycle of thinking that men define her, letting men define her life, letting men define her emotions and her feelings and the way that she shows up in the world and the way that she shows up as a parent for her daughter. I think that Waldo already sees through everything that happens with her mom. Like, even when her mom situationally is like, okay, like, this guy just broke up with me, I'm gonna put my life back on track, like, I'm gonna prioritize you, I'm gonna come here and do this and do that. Waldo already knows that her mom is not, like, it's not serious. It literally, that her mom's not serious. And that it's not gonna change, you know, because that is fundamentally who she is as a person. It's not just these situations that are leading to her treatment of the daughter. Like, okay, you got broken up with, that's not gonna magically make you a good mom and erase all of the years where you weren't one. Because it's not about the situation, it's about fundamentally the way that you are behaving routinely and the way that you treat me routinely. And so I think that that is a really, really interesting phenomenon to look at, and a really, really interesting relationship dynamic to see through all of the different lenses in the story. I think that this was a very, very good read. Like I said, I thought that it was very sharply written, and there were times that I did find it to be funny. I think that Jennette definitely has a very believable voice as a teenage girl. It felt realistic. It didn't feel like she was like pushing too hard or trying too hard to seem young, or like to like, you know, like, oh, what are the kids into these days? Like, it didn't feel like that. It felt authentic, and I thought that was really, really nice. But there is one thing that I have to address. There is like the R word debacle. And I've seen only a couple people talking about this, but the book is still relatively new. But there is a point in the book where the R word is used, and it doesn't really serve much of a purpose. So I would actually love to know from Jennette McCurdy, like, why did she choose that word? Like, what was that word choice about? What did that really mean for her, and why did that feel necessary? Because it kind of comes out of nowhere, and then we go nowhere with it. So it feels like we could have chosen other words. I don't even remember when it was. I think it was in the Victoria's Secret. Like, she was at Victoria's Secret, and there was a customer who was like acting bizarre, and she called her the R slur or something like that. Or she was just talking like something like that. But it, like, okay. Like, I get there's people out there in the world who are like using this word, but it felt like if we're not going to really have anything to say about it, I don't think that we needed to include it in the story. Because it doesn't add anything, and it doesn't, like, it doesn't add anything. And okay, if you're going for realism, okay, I guess, but did we need it? That's my thing, like, did we need it? But overall, I thought that this was a very good read, very quick read. I finished it. I could have finished it in a day. The audiobook only took like 4 hours to listen to, but I had other things that were going on. I finished it in like 3 days. But I thought that it was good. Like, I'm glad that I read it. I'm glad that I experienced this story. I'm glad the story is being told. I'm glad that this was written. I'm excited to see what Jennette McCurdy writes next. I think that her voice is very powerful, and she has a way of really resonating with her audience because everything feels very, very realistic and very relatable. Even if you haven't gone through the things that, like, the subject matter that she's diving into, you really feel like a certain level of understanding, and everything feels very human, and it's very, very easy to empathize with it. So those are my takes on Half His Age by Jennette McCurdy. I really do recommend it for people to read. Like, I think this is an important read, and I'm happy that it exists overall.